Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a massive volcano, staring down into a churning lake of molten lava. The heat is so intense you can feel your skin burning from 50 feet away. The air shimmers like a mirage, and then someone asks you the question that sounds absolutely insane, but somehow makes perfect sense. What if we just threw all our garbage in there? I mean, think about it. America generates 292 million tons of trash every year. Landfills are overflowing. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is twice the size of Texas. Microplastics are in our blood, in our lungs, probably in our brains by now. But volcanoes? Volcanoes are nature's incinerators. They're literally lakes of fire that can melt rock. So why don't we just dump our trash into volcanoes and let Earth do what it does best, destroy everything? Today we're going to explore this wild idea, and I promise you, the answer is way more insane than you think. Now, before you dismiss this as just another crazy internet theory, here's why this actually matters. This isn't about whether we should dump trash in volcanoes. This is about understanding why our current waste crisis is so impossible to solve that people are seriously considering ideas like this. Right now, as you're watching this video, America is drowning in garbage. Every single day, the average American throws away 4.9 pounds of trash. And that's 1,788 pounds per year, per person. Multiply that by 330 million people, and you get a number so big it's almost meaningless. We're running out of places to put it. China stopped accepting our recycling in 2018, and our entire system collapsed overnight. Plastic recycling? It's basically a lie. Only 9% of plastic ever produced has been recycled. The rest? Landfills, oceans, or burned in incinerators that pump toxins into the air. So when someone says, hey, what about volcanoes? They're not being stupid, they're being desperate. And that desperation reveals something profound about humanity. We're incredible at creating problems, but we're terrible at dealing with the consequences. This is the story of what happens when a simple solution meets the complexity of reality. Let's start with the obvious appeal. Why does throwing trash into a volcano sound like such a brilliant idea? First, there's the sheer power of lava. Lava isn't just hot, it's incomprehensibly hot. The surface temperature of lava flows ranges from 1,300 to 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to melt steel, which melts at 2,500 degrees. Hot enough to vaporize organic matter instantly. When you see videos of lava consuming a tree or a car, it doesn't burn the way fire burns. It doesn't leave ash. It just erases it, consumes it, turns it into gas and smoke. So in theory, you could throw a plastic bottle, a mattress, a refrigerator, hell, an entire garbage truck into a lava lake, and it would just vanish. No landfill needed, no incinerator required, just natural geothermal incineration. Second, there's convenience. America has active volcanoes. Hawaii's Kilauea has been erupting almost continuously since 1983. Mount St. Helens in Washington. Mount Rainier, also in Washington. Yellowstone, though let's not talk about that one, because if Yellowstone erupts, trash is the least of our problems. The point is, we have the infrastructure, we have the volcanoes. Why not use them? And third, there's a weird poetic justice to it. For thousands of years, humans have been taking from the earth. Mining, drilling, extracting, consuming. What if we gave something back? What if we turned Earth's own molten core into the ultimate recycling system? It sounds perfect. It sounds elegant. It sounds like the kind of solution a billionaire tech bro would pitch on a TED Talk. But here's the thing about solutions that sound too good to be true. They usually are. Let's talk about what actually happens when you throw trash into a volcano. And trust me, this is where it gets wild. First problem, logistics. You can't just back a garbage truck up to the edge of Kilauea and dump it in. Volcanoes aren't designed for easy access. Most active lava lakes are surrounded by unstable ground, toxic gases, and temperatures that would melt the tires off your truck before you got close. Kilauea's lava lake, for example, sits inside a crater that's constantly changing shape. Sometimes the lava level drops hundreds of feet below the rim. Sometimes it rises and overflows. You'd need helicopters, heat-resistant drones, or some kind of industrial conveyor system built right up to the edge. And even then, you're risking human lives every single day to dump garbage. But let's say we solve the logistics. Let's say we build a massive heat-resistant trash chute that drops garbage directly into the lava. What happens next? Here's where physics gets ugly. When you throw organic matter into lava, paper, food waste, wood, it doesn't just vaporize cleanly, it explodes. See, when something hits lava, the moisture inside it turns to steam instantly, and steam expands, fast, really fast. If you throw a bag of wet garbage into lava, the water inside flashes to steam, expands to 1,600 times its original volume in milliseconds, and you get an explosion. Not a movie explosion, a real violent steam-driven blast that sends molten lava flying into the air. There are videos of scientists throwing bags of organic waste into Hawaiian lava flows as experiments, and every single time, it explodes. Lava splatters everywhere. Now imagine doing that with tons of garbage. You turn the volcano into a fireworks show, a deadly toxic fireworks show. But wait, it gets worse. Let's talk about plastic. Plastic makes up a huge percentage of American waste. Bottles, bags, packaging, electronics. When plastic burns, it releases some of the most toxic chemicals known to science. Dioxins, furans, polychlorinated biphenyls. These aren't just bad for you, they're carcinogenic. They cause birth defects. They accumulate in the food chain and never break down. When you incinerate plastic in a controlled facility, you need scrubbers, filters, and emission controls to capture these toxins. But if you just dump plastic into a volcano, those toxins go straight into the atmosphere. And here's the kicker. Volcanoes already emit gases: sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide. Kilauea alone releases about 2,000 tons of sulfur dioxide per day during active eruptions. Now add the toxic fumes from burning millions of tons of plastic, rubber, treated wood, and electronics. You'd create a toxic cloud so deadly, it would make the air unbreathable for miles. Hawaii's tourism industry, which brings in $17 billion a year, would collapse overnight. The local population would be poisoned, and the trade winds would carry those toxins across the Pacific, affecting air quality as far away as California. Okay, but what about non-burnable trash? What about glass, metal, concrete? Surely lava can handle that, right? Here's the problem. Lava isn't infinitely powerful. Yes, it can melt some things, but when you dump massive amounts of solid material into a lava lake, you don't melt it. You cool the lava. Think of it like throwing ice cubes into hot coffee. The coffee doesn't stay hot, it cools down. If you dump tons of metal and glass into a lava lake, the lava temperature drops. The surface starts to crust over, and instead of a churning molten lake, you get a solid cap of cooled lava mixed with trash. Congratulations, you've just turned an active volcano into a giant, unstable landfill. And here's where it gets really dangerous. Volcanoes are pressure systems. Magma rises from deep underground, and when it reaches the surface, gases escape. That release of pressure is what keeps eruptions relatively stable, but if you cap the surface with a layer of cooled trash and solidified lava, you trap those gases underneath. Pressure builds, and eventually it doesn't vent gradually, it explodes. You've turned a lava lake into a bomb. Does it blow your mind that an idea this simple, this obvious, this seductive is actually one of the worst ideas humanity could possibly attempt? We looked at a volcano, one of the most powerful forces on Earth, and thought, yeah, we can use that as a trash can. We thought we could outsmart geology. We thought we could take a shortcut, but nature doesn't do shortcuts. Nature does consequences. If that makes you realize how dangerously simple our thinking can be when we're desperate, hit that like button. Because this isn't just about volcanoes and trash. This is about every time we look for an easy fix to a hard problem and ignore the red flags screaming at us to stop. Now here's the part that's really gonna mess with your head. Even if we could safely dump trash into volcanoes, even if we solved every problem I just mentioned, it still wouldn't matter because we don't have enough volcanoes. Let's do the math. America produces 292 million tons of trash per year. That's 800,000 tons per day. Kilauea's lava lake, one of the most active and accessible in the world, has a surface area of about 220,000 square meters. Let's be wildly optimistic and say we could dump 10,000 tons of trash per day into Kilauea without destroying it. That means Kilauea could handle about 1.25% of America's daily trash. To handle all of America's trash, you'd need 80 Kilaueas, erupting constantly, forever. And that's just America. Global trash production is over 2 billion tons per year. You'd need thousands of active volcanoes, all perfectly accessible, all erupting at maximum capacity 24/7 just to keep up. We don't have that. Earth doesn't have that. There are only about 1,500 active volcanoes on the planet, and most of them are underwater, in remote locations, or too dangerous to approach. But let's go even deeper. Let's say we ignored all logic and tried this anyway. Let's say we built a global infrastructure to transport trash to volcanoes. We built heat-resistant chutes, filtration systems, safety protocols. We turned 100 volcanoes into industrial waste sites. What would happen over time? Here's the nightmare scenario. Volcanoes aren't static. They don't erupt on a predictable schedule. Kilauea's lava lake has drained and refilled multiple times. In 2018, it drained completely. The lava lake just disappeared, dropped over 1,000 feet below the surface. If that happened while you were using it as a trash dump, all that garbage you thought was destroyed, it's sitting in a crater, waiting, and when the lava comes back, when pressure builds and the volcano erupts again, all that trash gets ejected, blown into the air, scattered across the landscape. You haven't solved the trash problem, you've just created a trash volcano. Imagine the eruption, not just lava and ash, but burning plastic, exploding batteries, toxic metals raining down like a hellish snowstorm. The environmental damage would be catastrophic. The health effects would last generations. And here's the final twist. Even if none of that happened, even if we pulled off the impossible and successfully used volcanoes as trash dumps for decades, we'd be teaching future generations the worst possible lesson, that the solution to overconsumption is to hide the evidence, that the answer to waste isn't to produce less, but to destroy faster, that Earth is an infinite dumping ground. We'd be doubling down on the exact mindset that created the trash crisis in the first place, the belief that we can take without consequence, that we can consume without limits, that someone else, something else, will clean up our mess. In this case, the planet itself. So what does this mean for us? For you, watching this in 2025? I think there's something deeply human about this whole volcano trash idea. It represents who we are at our core. We're problem solvers. We see a mountain of trash and think, how do I make it disappear? We see a volcano and think, how do I use that? That instinct, that creativity, that refusal to accept no for an answer. It's what built civilization. It's what put us on the moon. It's what cured diseases and invented the internet. But it's also what got us into this mess. Because we're so good at solving immediate problems that we ignore long-term consequences. We invented plastic because it was cheap, durable, and versatile. We didn't think about what happens to a material that never breaks down. We built a consumer economy based on disposability. We didn't think about where disposed things actually go. We created a world where convenience is king. And now we're drowning in the consequences. The volcano trash idea isn't stupid. It's a symptom of a species that's running out of easy answers. And maybe that's exactly what we need to realize. There are no easy answers. Not for this, not anymore. But here's where it gets even stranger. Because while we'll never use volcanoes as trash dumps, we are already doing something just as insane. We're using the ocean. Right now, there are 5 massive garbage patches in the world's oceans. The largest, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, covers 1.6 million square kilometers. That's bigger than Texas and California combined. It contains an estimated 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic, and it's growing. Every year, 8 million metric tons of plastic enter the ocean. That's the equivalent of dumping 1 garbage truck of plastic into the sea every single minute. We didn't build infrastructure for this. We didn't plan it. We just let it happen. Because the ocean is out of sight, out of mind, just like a volcano would be. And here's what scientists are discovering. That plastic doesn't disappear. it breaks down into microplastics. Pieces so small they're in the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. They're in human blood, in placentas, in newborn babies. We tried to hide our trash in the ocean and it came back to haunt us at the molecular level. That's the real lesson here. You can't hide consequences. You can only delay them. And there's one more thing we're doing that's even more volcanic than you realize. We're pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere at a rate that's unprecedented in Earth's history, 36 billion tons per year. That's more CO2 than all of Earth's volcanoes combined produce in a century. We're essentially turning the entire atmosphere into a trash dump. And just like the volcano idea, we thought we could get away with it. We thought the sky was infinite. We thought the planet could absorb it. But now, we're seeing the consequences. Record heat waves, melting ice caps, wildfires that look like volcanic eruptions, hurricanes that devastate entire coastlines. The planet isn't absorbing our waste, it's sending it back with interest. So here's the question that should keep you up at night. If we can't even stop ourselves from destroying the ocean and the atmosphere, both of which are killing us in real time, how would we ever have the discipline to responsibly use volcanoes? We wouldn't. And deep down, we know that. That's why the volcano trash idea will never happen. Not because it's impossible, but because we know ourselves too well. For now, just remember this. Every time you throw something away, every time you toss a plastic bottle or a food wrapper or an Amazon package into the trash, you're not making it disappear. You're just moving it to a landfill that will leak into groundwater, to an incinerator that will pump toxins into the air, to the ocean, where it will break down into pieces small enough to enter your body. There is no way. There never was. And the sooner we accept that, the sooner we stop looking for shortcuts like dumping trash into volcanoes, the sooner we might actually solve this, not by destroying faster, but by creating less. Because the only real solution to the trash crisis isn't finding a better place to hide it. It's admitting we made too much in the first place. And that's a truth we're still not ready to face.